There's a law no one taught you in school, but it governs everything. It explains why students cheat, why influencers burn out, why corporations collapse under their own weight, and why your goals sometimes leave you empty even when you hit them. It's called Goodhart's law, and it says this: when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. In other words, the moment you focus too hard on a number, that number starts lying to you. And it's not just numbers, it's any symbol: followers, test scores, calories, grades, salaries, likes, views, weight, reps, KPIs. Once you turn them into goals, they lose the very meaning they were designed to capture. Because humans are smart. We game the system. We cut corners. We fake progress. We turn metrics into mirages. And when your whole life is built around chasing those mirages, you end up in a desert. Let's break it down. You set a goal. I want to get healthy. So you track calories. It works. Until one day you start choosing food not based on nutrition, but based on numbers. You hit your calorie target, but feel weak, foggy, inflamed. You lost the real goal in service of the visible one. That's Goodhart's law. You say, I want to be smart. So you chase grades. But then you start memorizing for the test, not learning for life. You ace the exam and forget everything a week later. Goodhart, you want to be loved. So you post more. You learn what gets likes. You start shaping your life for the algorithm. The version of you that gets applause replaces the version that feels real. That's how Goodhart's law breaks people, because the symbol becomes more seductive than the substance. And this is where the sickness begins. You start chasing what's measurable instead of what's meaningful. Now zoom out, look at the world. Businesses chase quarterly earnings and destroy long-term trust. Schools chase test scores and crush curiosity. Influencers chase virality and lose their voice. It's not because they're stupid. It's because systems reward visible output, not deep value. And when you live inside a system long enough, you start mistaking the map for the territory. Goodhart's law isn't just a clever insight, it's a warning. A warning that metrics are tools, not truths. That numbers can reflect reality, but they're not reality. That obsession with performance kills performance. So what do? We start by waking up. We stop asking, what can I measure, and start asking what actually matters. We stop designing for applause and start designing for alignment. Because when you build a life optimized for symbols, you'll get applause and feel nothing. But when you build a life around substance, you may not get claps every day, but you'll sleep like someone who didn't sell their soul. The world loves numbers, but numbers don't love you back. You look at someone with 1 million followers and think, they must be successful. But success isn't in numbers, it's in alignment. And Goodhart's law is the glitch that fools people into chasing signals while ignoring the signal within. So let's talk about how this shows up in you. You say you want to be productive, so you make a checklist. Great. But suddenly you're doing tasks just to check boxes, not because they matter. You add tiny meaningless things to your list to get that dopamine spike of crossing something off. That's not productivity. That's performance theater. You want to grow your business, so you focus on revenue. But now, every decision is about making the numbers go up this month, even if it means burning out your team or killing the quality of your product. That's not growth. That's self-destruction in disguise. You want to be in shape, so you count steps. Then, one night, you pace around your apartment at 11:58 p.m. to hit 10,000. For what? To please the app? To feel done? While your joints hurt and your sleep is compromised? That's not health, that's algorithmic obedience. The lie behind Goodhart's law is this: if it's visible, it must be real. But that's not how meaning works. Meaning is felt, not measured. And the most dangerous thing about metrics? They hijack your dopamine system. Because every time you chase a number, you're not just chasing approval. You're training your brain to need it. Here's how the cycle works. 1, you set a goal, 10K steps, 100 likes, 5K a month. 2, you hit the goal. 3, you get a dopamine hit. 4, your brain goes, nice, do it again. 5, you raise the bar. 6, you hit diminishing returns. 7, you burn out or become numb. Now you're trapped. This is what happens to influencers who go viral once and then live in panic. To professionals who get promoted and feel emptier at the top. To creators who once loved their craft and now dread their deadlines. Because when the metric becomes the meaning, the soul dies slowly, so how do you break out? You stop letting the metric lead, and you start asking better questions. Why did I want this in the first place? What do I actually feel when I chase this? What am I avoiding by focusing only on numbers? You begin to track things that can't be tracked. Integrity, alignment, energy, fulfillment. Because no app is going to measure whether you're proud of yourself. No spreadsheet will tell you if you've lived with depth today. No follower count will whisper, "You're finally whole." That's your job. And it's harder than checking boxes, but it's real. Remember this. The things that matter most, the laughter you shared, the risks you took, the truth you spoke when it was hard, they'll never show up on a dashboard. And that's exactly what makes them sacred. Now let's zoom out. Because Goodhart's law isn't just breaking your goals. It's breaking the entire system. Society runs on metrics. But what happens when the metric becomes the god? You get schools that teach to the test instead of teaching kids to think. You get doctors who treat the chart instead of the patient. You get police departments that chase quotas instead of justice. You get politicians who obsess over approval ratings instead of leading with courage. You get media that runs headlines based on clicks, not truth. You get universities that care more about publication count than actual insight. You get workers doing more reports than results. And behind all of it, you get a culture trained to value what's visible, even when it's fake. Think about social media. It started as connection. Then it became a scoreboard. You're not sharing anymore, you're performing. You're not connecting, you're competing. Every post is a pitch. Every moment a chance to climb the algorithm. Every part of your life now comes with a subtle thought. Can this be content? That's what happens when measurement becomes identity. It's no longer enough to have a good life. You need it to look good, track well, rank high. So people fake it, curate it, filter it, chase applause that doesn't feed them. Meanwhile, real value, quiet effort, deep care, hard truth gets drowned out. This is what happens to entire industries. Education stops being about learning. Fitness becomes about visible abs, not internal health. Mental health gets reduced to tracking streaks, not healing pain. Relationships are judged by photo ops, not trust. Faith becomes optics. Art becomes marketing. Even activism gets hijacked by metrics. You're told to count how many you impact, not how deeply you changed one. And in this environment, depth dies. Soul dies. Substance dies. And it all looks good on paper. But you feel the rot inside because systems have been optimized for what looks good, not what is good. And until you wake up to that, until you unplug from that loop, you'll feel off and never know why. So what's the solution? You become unmeasurable. You shift from metrics to meaning, from visibility to value, from noise to signal. You do things that don't go viral but go deep. You make art that may not get shared but heals someone. You build businesses that might grow slower but stand for something. You show up in your friendships without posting it. You create without the pressure of performance. You lead without tracking likes. You write without needing to be seen. You live in a way that can't be graphed, only felt. Because when the system says, make it visible, and you respond, no, I'll make it real, you become dangerous. And in a world addicted to numbers, being untrackable is rebellion. So here we are, at the edge of the map. The system has trained you to chase symbols, to optimize your every move, to replace soul with strategy, meaning with metrics, depth with data. And for a while, it worked, until it didn't. Because one day you look around, and everything feels hollow. You hit the number, you nailed the launch, you got the applause. But it doesn't land, it doesn't touch you. You achieved the dream, and somehow it betrayed you. That's not failure, that's awakening. That's your soul tapping on the inside of your chest saying, I'm still here. I'm not impressed by your metrics, I want truth. The real danger of Goodhart's law isn't that it ruins systems. It's that it shrinks your soul to fit inside a spreadsheet. So, what now? You do the radical thing. The thing no one's taught you to do. You stop measuring your life with someone else's ruler. You stop living like a brand. You stop optimizing every moment. You stop filtering your passion through what's popular. And you reclaim your original blueprint, the part of you that never asked for permission to exist. You ask, what would I create if no one could see it? What would I build if no one could count it? What would I pursue if numbers didn't matter? And you realize the most meaningful things you've ever experienced, love, loss, beauty, wonder, trust, awe, were all unquantifiable. So maybe the goal isn't to beat the algorithm. Maybe the goal is to become someone it can't read. Someone whose values don't fit in a funnel, whose impact can't be graphed, whose joy can't be monetized. Someone who lives outside the frame, because the real rebellion isn't to break the system, it's to become untouchable by it. And when you live like that, quietly powerful, deeply rooted, fully awake people notice. They don't know what it is. They just feel something real. Because in a world where everyone is optimized, you'll be alive. That's not a strategy. That's not a hack. That's freedom. And once you taste it, you'll never go back. You'll stop chasing their scoreboard. You'll stop performing your life, and you'll start doing the one thing this system can't predict: living with soul.